Hello, this is Irene Ketskiri with jamplay.com. Welcome back to my live course, Expression Techniques for Guitar. And today, this is week 3, we're going to talk about bending. Bending is definitely the most popular technique for electric guitar because it can be so personal. You can add your own touch to it in so many different ways. I'm going to play a lick where I've tried to include most of those ideas: semitone bends, whole tone bends, 1.5 tone bends, and a few ways how you can phrase them. So I'll just play the lick right now, and then we can talk about everything. Also how to practice the bends and make them sound very consistent. All right, let me play that. All right, there we go. So this is our lick for today. As you see, it's got quite a bit of bending in different places, and I've started up high on the fretboard, and there's a reason for that. I mean, it's going to be a lot easier for you if you haven't done a lot of bending to start from the higher frets on the guitar, just because the tension is a bit, bit less. So before I start showing the lick, I want to talk a little bit about the mechanics of bending. So essentially, if you watched week 1 with vibrato, the positioning of the left hand and arm will be pretty much the same. So what you want to do is you want to have your thumb on top. The fingers from the left hand, they're kind of diagonal. I would say this is kind of it's always like that, isn't it? Most of the times, unless you're doing something very stretchy, you will be playing with your fingers diagonally. But definitely, you want this sort of posture for the bend, because otherwise, if you're with your arms straight, it's going to be very difficult to push up or pull down. I mean, there are people who do that, don't get me wrong, but this is a bit harsh to start like that, unless it's your natural style. If you're doing it like this already, don't change it. If you're getting the tone you want, just keep doing it, and experiment with all different bends I'm going to show today. Right, so for anyone who wants, a steady sort of bending left arm, you want to be with your forearm facing, that's similar to the vibrato. It's kind of, that way. So I've got my thumb on top, and then my forearm is facing the guitar that way. It's kind of parallel to my body. So you don't want it to be very close to your waist like this, because then you're going to get some weird posture anyway. And you don't want it to be too far away, but you kind of want it to be here. You need some space here. In other words, if you see that you're very attached to your body with the left arm, you probably need to take it out a bit. And this is more or less the position. You've got your thumb up, like I said, the fingers lay bit diagonally to the fretboard, and the first thing to do is start using fingers 2 and 3. These are the most common fingers for bending. Second to that would be just the first finger by itself. I'm going to show that as well. And third would be, second finger, probably supported by the first finger as well. Now I'm just going to go to fret 9 so we can get this started. I'll show just the 3 high strings today, most common ones for bending, and I'm just going to show you how to play the semitone bends, whole tone bends, and 1.5 tone bends. So if I'm on fret 9 on the E, B, and G strings, all I want to do is just reach that note that is on the 10th fret. So my fingers, my second finger is sitting on the 8th fret, and my third finger is on the 9th fret. And I'm just going to aim for the 10th fret by bending the string up. In other words, pushing the string up. So if I'm not sure where it is, I'm going to go ahead and play it first. So you can start as slow as you want in the beginning to get your muscle working. Same for the B string. So 10th fret, 9th up to 10th. So G string. I recommend starting slow, but try to build up speed, and not in the sense of playing the bend in a high tempo, but by bending up quite quickly, because if you bend slow, it might sound awkward if you're not 100% sure what you're doing. I mean, it can be part of the phrasing to bend up slow, you know, like a kind of Gilmour feel, but if you're not sure where the pitch is, it might come wrong. So the only way to know, to be 100% sure where the pitch is by trying to bend immediately in time. So, because that means that your hand is kind of knowing the distance it has to travel very quickly. So even if you need to go slow, you can just adjust to the timing you want to achieve. So, but if it's gonna go wrong like this, then we have a problem. So just make sure it's consistent like this. Same for the B string. You can go back to the, you know, the note you're aiming as many times as you like to make sure it's happening. So. And you will notice, of course, that there's a difference in the force that you're putting in every string. That's because of you know, the physics of the strings. Some of the, and the frets as well. In some places the tension is higher, so you need to push higher. Also, and this is, you know, this happens to all of us, if you practice bends for a long time, you will find that it feels like you need to push even harder for the same amount of pitch. Don't worry about that. There's no problem with the guitar, there's no problem with the strings. It's just, you know, fatigue building up. So yeah, now same thing with the whole tone bends. Now from the whole tone bends and above, you want to pay attention. This is something that I've been doing even for the semitone bends. You want to check out what the first finger is doing. And the first finger has a very specific position here. It's laying flat and muting all the strings, well, below. Not all the strings, but the two strings above. So if I'm on the high E string, my first finger is laying flat, not pressing, but laying on those strings and muting the B and G strings, right? So if I go, if anything happens with the bend, that I don't hear any noise from the strings below. Same for the B string. Now my index finger on the left hand is lightly touching, well, even three strings, you know, A, D, and G. As far as it can get. Definitely two strings. You'll need to be two strings clear. And for the G string, well, again, this now goes for two strings. A and D string are muted with the index finger. Only because I'm muting the E string with my thumb here, you know. It's one or the other. So yeah, try to get used to. This feels really weird in the beginning, I know, but it's definitely necessary. Otherwise you get things like. See what happens? Because as you push up, as you bend the note, then the string above is kind of, you know, it comes into the game. Well, that's natural because you're touching it, so it starts vibrating. And unless you mute it somehow, you're gonna end up with a bend that has more notes than you need. So this can be avoided by using the first finger, index finger on the left hand to mute the strings below or above. Yeah. Well, actually it is below, so yeah. The bassier strings. Now let's do a whole tone. If I'm on the fret 9, I need to feel like I'm going to the 11th, so. Definitely watch that index finger here, so. Because otherwise on the return you're gonna get lots of noise. Same for the B string. Take your time slow if you need to, but start building up your way up to the bend. So, same for the G string. And last one, the one that needs more force and more, maybe, you know, more practice to get used to it. It's the 1.5 tone. These are 3 frets. that we need to bend up to. So from 9, it would be to 12. Whoa, yeah, this high E string will definitely not do it in this guitar. Don't want to break the string, I'll show it to you in another fret. So say I'm in fret 15, and I want to go to 18. I don't want to repeat that, so I know it's going to break the string, and it might even happen to your guitar if you've got 9ths. Generally speaking, I would play a 1.5 tone bend on the high E string on a very high fret. Maybe even, let's say, maybe even that high. So this was fret 19 going to 22. I don't recommend doing it on the 9th. Yeah, for this string, no. But we can do strings B and G. So on the B string, we're gonna go from fret 9 to 12. Same for the G string. Now you see, I might need the third, 3 fingers support for this. Sometimes, depends on, you know, how much I've played, and sometimes I'll just use 2 fingers. And this is gonna be still muting. Sometimes I might need this for extra push, like the first finger. So if this happens, I definitely need to mute from this hand for the strings below, right? Because the first finger is using, well, I'm using it to just play the bend, so I can't use it to mute as well. Try both, like, this is with index finger muting and just using 2 fingers. If you feel like you need to use 3 fingers, try to mute as best as you can from the right hand. That will be done with a thumb. Right, so we've got that's 1.5 tone bend. Now, the other thing I want to show, which is also happening in the solo, I'm going to show that quickly. You want to start getting used to bending with your index finger as well, because not all the times you can, I mean, if you're in one position, you don't want to be jumping around all the time to play all bends with second and third finger. And as you've realized, you know, when you play, a lot of the times you're using fingers 1 and 3 because it feels easier. So this is what we want to do with the bends too. We want to make sure that the first finger is also used to bend, but this one has to do the whole work by itself. And that creates some changes. Sometimes we might have to push the string up instead of down. Down instead of up. And I'll show you that for the semitone bend, just so you can see what happens. And the same applies to the other bends. Although most probably you wouldn't end up doing a 1.5 tone bend with 1 finger. We can talk about that in questions actually, because there's a lot to be said about those. So you can definitely ask me whatever you like for the different bending fingers, so that we don't, you know, take too long now. But I want to cover that. So for example, if I'm on the 9th fret, I want to bend up a semitone with the index. I'll do. Now my muting comes from the index itself and the right hand finger, because I'm just making sure I'm not going under the string here. I'm just kind of, if you look at it, the string below, the B string, kind of collects itself under the index, so I'm not going to get any noise. Same for the B string. G string is right under my index. Now, G string is different because I'm going to bend downwards. Why? Because it's easier, you know, and it's much more accurate and consistent if you do it that way. You'll notice it. So on the G string for semitone bend, just using, even for whole tone bend, when you use just your index finger, you want to go downwards, like whole tone. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it otherwise, really, because, well, You can do all sorts of things. I don't want to say this doesn't happen. I'm just saying that this happens a lot more frequently. So you would see the first finger, if you want to bend on the G string, you would go down because it's just easier to get the right note. And you have a lot more, you know, capacity to pull the string better because you're using this kind of motion, like a vibrato, right? Like a vibrato, this one. So yeah, if you look at it, the motion from the left arm is always like this. It's like a rotation. So I'm not pushing using the fingers, or pulling. I'm just doing it with the wrist and this tells the fingers to do that. Because most of the power comes from here. It's from the back of your forearm and this side of the hand, right? You'll see it when you do it. You'll feel that this is rotating as well, and it comes from the back of the elbow. Right, so these are, well, the most common ways to bend on the 3 high strings. So just to sum up, you know, we're pushing the string up, trying to get there relatively quickly so that we built some muscle memory to get the bend quickly to the right pitch. And then this is happening with second and third fingers like we did with the vibrato. And again, like we did with the vibrato, we can also do that with the first finger itself to bend up, or by pulling the string down if it's the G string to to have an extra bending finger. Now, why don't we just move on to the lick? And this lick is an E minor. It's a very straightforward one. I wanted to keep it simple so you can experiment with your already familiar pentatonic bends. So we're starting in position of E minor, and I've got a semitone bend coming up first. Yeah, let's do that. So I'm gonna be, let's look at bars 1 and 2. Now we've got a slide coming in from below, and I'm thinking kind of pentatonic here with just a semitone bend. So that's my first bend. I'm sliding into fret 12, then playing fret 15 on the B string, fret 12 of the high E string, and then a semitone bend, 14th fret to 15th. Now, this is one thing we can do while bending. We can bend up and down and up again. So that's what I did here. I bent up, released, bent up again, released, and then put a vibrato on the original starting note. So 1. And 1. I'm using the vibrato as I learned last time. And yeah, this is a very long note in the second bar. So this is what we have here. This is our call melody. There's nothing really crazy about this, just that you need to get there in time with the second and third fingers, which are already in place. So you don't have to change anything. You just put second and third finger on frets 13 and 14 and just play the semitone bend. Right? Let's move on to bars 3 and 4. Now we've got more bends happening here. Again, this phrase comes on beat 1 end. It's like a reply, a response to the previous one. And what does that do? Now I've got a whole tone bend here on the 15th fret of the B string. This is a D to an E. And this is something that is very common, and we will talk about it in the hammer-on week, but well, I want to look at it here because it's a thing that happens all the time when you bend. Most of the times when you bend, you'll release and then pull off to another note. It's kind of a common thing to hear. So this is what happens here. I'm bending the 15th fret, releasing it, and then pulling off to the 12th. So 1. And again, 1. So that's all done with one pick. The same thing happens, I'll do it without the rhythm values now. Same thing happens exactly on the 14th fret of the G string. So that's A to B. Bending, releasing, pulling off to fret 12. So and then this is the bend with the first finger, like I just mentioned before. So I've got fret 14 on the D string, just a single note, and then bending with my first finger only, fret 12 on the G string, and then returning to that root, that E note on the D string, 14th fret. So now that's bar 4. Right? So these are like two bar phrases. Let me play those 2 bars together very slow. So it's going to be 3, 4, 1. Hang on, maybe I should put a metronome for this. Let's do it for 75. Why not? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, 2, 3, 4, 1. And I've got a vibrato on the last note. That's exactly what we did with vibrato as well. We'll leave the note playing for a bit and then we start vibrating it. So the first 4 bars, let me just play the first 4 bars in, well, not up to speed, I'll play it at 75, but I'll play both. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so this is our first phrase, first pair of phrases, let's say. And then the same chord progression happens, and we do a similar question and answer thing. It's just the backing track changes a bit and goes double time. So what happens here? I'm on bar 5, right? Bars 5 and 6. Now I'm starting in a similar way. The first few notes are exactly the same. The only thing is that I'm just going to use a different fingering because I'll need to move up the fretboard to higher frets. Now what are these frets? I'm starting the same way, like I said, 12, 15 on the B string, 12, 14 and 15 now on the high E string. And I'm going to use fingers 1, 2 and 3 for this. So because I want to start moving on to the higher frets and I'm getting ready to do a bend there. Where's the bend? If you look at the end of bar 5, you've got a bend on the 20th fret, and that's a whole tone bend. So I'm going to end up with fingers 2 and 3 there to get ready to do that. So finger 2 is going to be on the 19th, and finger 3 is going to be on the 20th fret to bend. So I'm going to rearrange my fingers so that I can do that, and this works like this. What did I do now? I played a few notes with the third finger, right? I played the 15th fret on the highest string, the 17th, and the 20th as well. These are all picked notes, so. And then this is how I got to the 20th fret and bent up a whole tone. Return. This doesn't have a pull-off note, but I'm just going to, I'm going to the 20th fret on the B string, that G note there, to end the phrase. Let me play this whole thing slow. So it's like 3, 4, 1. Bit of vibrato here. One more time. 3, 4, 1. I'm ending this with the second finger on the last note because, well, second and third are busy doing the bend, so that means I'm not going to jump up there with the third. It's not enough time because I want to release my bend and not miss any of that time. So I'm going to use my second finger for that 20th fret in the B string. And look at that, the first finger, index finger, is doing the same thing. It's muting the strings below, as you would do on the bend. Now, let me just play this. Actually, no, I'll do the next one and then play both of them with a click. So, yeah, nothing else here. All the notes are picked with alternate picking, and then I'm just ending up on that bend and my exit note. There is one extra note on bar 6, but I want to put this in the next batch because it's kind of a preparation for the next phrase. So 3, 4, 1. Three, 4, 1. Right, and these were bars 5, 6. So I'm gonna do. Sorry, not 5, 6. These were. Oh yeah, they were 5, 6. Let me do 3, 4, 5, 6. These 4 bars at 75. Let's do that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, 2, 3, 4, 1. Yeah, I probably confused you here because these were only bars 5, 6, but yeah. 3, 4 we've already played. So let me do 5, well, we've done 5, 6. Let me do 7 and 8, and then we can play these last 4. Right, what happens in bar 7 and 8? We've got a response phrase to that melody now, which has quite a lot of bends. I want to just talk about those bends first. The bends, if you look at the end of bar 6, we've got 7th fret on the B string, semitone. Fast forwarding to where I can see another bend on the 10th fret, that's a full tone bend. Same string, B string. And then what happens, I'm looking at the next bend, it's on the 12th fret, and that's 1.5 tone. So I kind of know, I mean, this is useful to do when you're working out a solo anyway, because bending, well, the bends are the most physical parts of the song, so you want to know how your fingers are going to end up there. So yeah, we've got 3 bends in this next lick, which are 7, fret 7, 10, and 12, and they progressively increase in the amount of bending we're doing, interestingly. So we've got a semitone bend first, whole tone bend next, and then last one for this phrase is the 1.5 tone bend. I'm just going to show again, we've got these 3 bends. Now these are tied together with some other notes, of course, and let's see what happens. The 7th fret on the B string comes on the end of bar 6, on the 4 end, beat 4 end, and rings throughout bar 7. That goes like. Now this is our typical bend, release, pull off, and play another note idea, isn't it? So bending up, semitone, 7 to 8. Returning, pulling off to 5, and playing 7th fret on the G string for my, well, ending of this little part. So this is all played with 2 picks, one on the B string, one on the G string. And that's the exact same rhythm that we're going to play the other bends. Now what do we have? Fret 10 on the B, bending a whole tone up to 12, then releasing, pulling off to 8, ending on fret 9 of the G string. So, and the same thing, almost the same thing, we're going here for something else. Yeah, actually, let me play that bar. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right before the 1.5 tone bend, which starts on bar 7. So let's go again. 3, 4. 3, 4. Let's add bar 8, and then I've got. As you see, there's an interesting shift of timing here, of rhythm. This is very common when you play a solo, because you don't want to sound very predictable. You also want to play around with the groove, follow the changes for the rhythm section, and just add some interest, you know, some different expectations. Now we've got triplets here, and that first bend comes on the 4 end of bar 7 and rings throughout bar 8 before it heads into this triplet lick. This is like a blues lick. So what do? We've got the 1.5 tone bend. Now this time I'm going to pick the return because I want it to sound a bit more, crisp. It's a bit more bluesy as well, so rock bluesy then. And then I've got frets 12, 11, and 10 on the B string played with the pick, you know, so bend. Then going down on the G string, frets 12 and 9. D string, fret 12. Then back to the 12th fret on the G string. And back to that 9th fret on the G string. So this is essentially position 5 of E blues. With an additional bend, 1.5 tone bend on the 12th fret of the B string. So let's just play this fret, this bar by itself. So 3, 4. Three, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. And you want to add some vibrato on that last root note. Now I'm just going to tie those two together, so frets, bars 7 and 8. I'm going to start 3, 4. Notice the fingering here, I'm using 3rd finger on the D string for that 12th fret, and then right under it, because I've got the same fret, I'm just going to use the 4th finger, because I feel more confident like that. There's not so much time to get there with a 3rd finger. You could, but I think it sounds cleaner if you use 4th finger. Right, let me put those with the metronome at 75. This is bars 5 to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That's it. The original speed is 130, so we're quite slower here, but we just want to make sure we know exactly where those bends are, where those licks are. These are the last 5 bars. Now we've got, it's almost like, I mean, it could be an exercise what's happening here to practice the bends, and this is a very common thing. We'll probably talk about it a bit more next week. Playing, you know, the type of a unison bend. So what does that mean? I'm playing a bend on the G string, for example, and the note that I've just bent to, I'm playing again on another string. Well, the string underneath the higher string. So if I'm on the G string and I play a whole tone bend on any fret, I'm actually hitting the same note that lives 2 frets below, 2 frets down on the string above, on the B string. So for example, if I'm on the 7th fret on the G string and bend up a whole tone, I'm actually playing the same note as the 5th fret on the B string. That happens everywhere. 12 to 10, 14 to 12. This is a good tool to practice as well. If you don't want to go to the next note on the same string, you can practice your bends in the G string like that. And this is, you know, this is what happens for the full bend, the whole tone bend. But there's also the semitone bend. This one, if you're on the G string and you're bending up a semitone, you will find the very same note on the B string 3 frets down. So for example, if I'm on the fret, on the F sharp, on fret 11 of the G, that same note that I'm bending to is 3 frets down on the B string. And this can be used again for practice. We can cover that in the questions if you'd like, you know, how to practice using the unison type of bends. And this is what's happening here. I've got a few bends. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and check out where my bends are. If I look at bars 9 and 10, I've got a 7th fret of the G string bend, whole tone bend. I've got again 9th fret, full tone, whole tone. And then I've got a semitone bend on the 11th. Then 12th fret with a full whole tone bend. Same string. So I want to kind of map out what I'm getting ready to play. So this is the way I would practice it before diving into the lick. So just to kind of measure the amount of force I need to put and to get the muscle memory working again. And the rest of it is kind of easy because I'm doubling that note. I'm playing it again, like I said, in its relevant place on the B string. So I'm bending a whole tone on the 7th fret of G string. And I'm playing with a pick twice the same note on the B string, so 5th fret. And I'm going to make this a little bit of a slower bend. You'll see when I play it with a track again, so, or with a click. Same for the 9th. Doubling it with the 7th fret on the B string. Then got my semitone, 11th fret, semitone bend. Now this is going to be 8th fret on the G string, and then 12th. I've kind of taken a couple of notes from bar, this is 11, yeah, from bar 11, just so that I can finish this. And it goes, if I put everything together, it goes 1. This is a combination of quarters and 8th notes, and the whole phrase comes in on beat 2. This is beat 2 of fret of bar 9. And yeah, this is, we're left with a ringing note of that E on the 9th fret from the previous phrase, and then I'm going on beat 2 on that 7th fret bend. So let me play those 2 bars and this little bit of bar 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, 3, 4, 1. And that's more or less the first part of this lick. Let me play that. Actually, let's finish this and I'll play everything with a metronome. Yeah, we'll do every 4 or 5 bars. Yeah, that's bar 11 now. And what is happening in bar 11? I've got another lick. This is the last lick. This is a straightforward pentatonic lick. You will have played that, I'm sure. It's if you look at bar 11, we're fret 14 and bending up a whole tone on the G string. And then I'm playing frets 12 on the B and the high E strings. I'm trying not to make them ring out together. It's not a problem, but I'm just trying to make them separate. So I'm rolling my first finger for this. So now these are the notes that we've got in place. We've got another bend on the 15th fret of the B string. Again, a whole tone bend. So after what happened with a long series of bends, and we've reached this this bar, and then the last bar is probably the most interesting. I'll just play this bit before it once more. So it's like if you look at it, I'm using my second finger to play the 14th fret on the high E string. So I've got bend on the 14th, index finger for frets 12 on the B and E strings, and then regular bend with second and third fingers on the 15th of the B string, and then first and second finger for 12 and 14 frets on the high E, because I'm getting ready to play the 15th fret on the B string with my third finger. So I just want to have it ready. And this is where I'm going now. This is fret 12, and I've got 15 and 17 frets. Again, I'm going to play them with the same finger, the third finger. Why? Because I'm getting ready to do a monster bend for the outro, which is going to be the most, let's say, well, it's combining a few things together. So yeah, this is, I'm going to definitely need my third finger there for that bend. So what happens in that bend? If you look at it, it says full bend, so I'm bending up a whole tone. Then there's a 1.5 bend, but I'm not picking anywhere. It keeps going. So that means I'm going to bend an extra semitone. Then it returns itself to the full bend, so I'm going down the semitone, and then it returns itself down the whole tone, going to the original note. So this, if you think about it, is like, I've got my original note, I'm going up a whole tone, going up another semitone, taking that semitone back, taking the whole tone back, and I'm back on my original note. Now this sounds like fret 17, 19, 20, 19, 17. So this will take some time to get used to, because like I said, you need to build the muscle memory. and know exactly where the whole tone bend is, where the semitone bend is. And now what we're doing, we need to know where the whole tone bend is and where the 1.5 tone bend is, isn't it? Because that's where we're bending to. So I've got whole tone, another semitone, back. And this sounds like a slide. It's beautiful. And then with whatever volume of the note we have left, we put some vibrato to end this lick and fade the phrase out. Let me just play these couple of bars together. So that's going to be from bar 11, beat 2. So, 1 second. Yeah, so 3, 4, 1. Yeah, that was terrible. Let me play again. 3, 4, 1. So I'm coming in on beat 2 of bar 11. Let's do that again. 3, 4, 1. If you are comfortable, you can slide this 15th to 17th fret. I'm just going to show it now. I haven't notated it, but it feels very natural to do it like that. Again, we'll talk about slides and bends using these combined on bending part 2 next week. But I'm just going to show that quickly as a, like a teaser, let's say. So 3, 4, 1. Without the slide, with a slide. 3, 4, 1. And that's the whole thing. I'm just going to play these last 4 bars one more time, and then I'm just going to play the whole thing with the track. So let's go. Last 5 bars. So we're going to start from bar 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Oh, sorry. Hang on. Yeah, bar 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me do that again because I think I misplaced this for an 8th note. Yeah, let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One last time. 3, 4, 1. So, well, this is what I talked about before. These bends, I'm not doing them so quickly. I'm just doing them on the 2nd 8th note. So I'm not going, I'm going. So I'm giving it some time. It almost feels like a slide. Okay, I'm gonna play the whole thing at 75 slow, so from the top, and then I can play the whole thing with the backing track once more. So let's do it at 75, whole thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. that's the one. Well, there's a lot of work to be done here, lots of timing to pay attention to, and mostly muscle memory and just combination of fingers. I'm just gonna play this one last time with the original track. As always, I've included a longer version of the backing track for you, so you can practice all your bends, you can jam in E minor, and just, you know, play the lick as many times as you like. I'm gonna play that, and then I'm ready for your questions. I hope you have loads. I'm looking forward to those. And yeah, let's do this one last time, full speed with the track. Great, thank you very much for your focus and for being here. I'm gonna come back in a minute to answer your questions, and I'll see you next week with bending part 2. This was Irene Ketskiri with jamplay.com, and this is Expression Techniques for Guitar, my latest live course. I'll see you very soon. Hi guys, I'm back. I hope you enjoyed this week's bending lesson. We did quite a lot of stuff. I really like that lick myself, so I hope you enjoyed it too. Let me get to your questions. What we have here today. Right. So are you using your first and second finger, index and middle, for added strength behind the ring finger? Yes, I do that. I will only do that if it's a 1.5 tone bend sometimes. It depends on the tension of the string. So for example, if it's on the G string, I don't know, it might be... If it's a... Well, this is a 2 whole tone bends. 2 whole tone bend, but if you do anything from 1.5 tone above, you might need that extra strength. It depends, like I said, on the string, on the tension, but yeah, I don't do it all the time because I need it to mute. So for the whole tone bends and the semitone ones, I just do it with 2 fingers, 2 and 3, or maybe 1 and 2, like I showed. So, but see, if I'm going to do a very high bend, then I'm going to probably need some help from the first finger. So yeah, I do that when I need the extra push. But also we have, while you said to mute the higher strings with your left index finger, can't you also use the side of your right hand? Well, for the higher ones, probably not, because you're gonna end up muting. So for example, if I'm on the B string and I want to play a bend here, physically I wouldn't be able to mute the high string with the right hand because it's above, so I would end up muting. If I mute the high E string, then I've already muted the B string as well. So yeah, that's why I use the, well, not the index, but the middle finger, probably because I'm holding the pick with the index. So middle finger, that's also for slide, legato, you know, anything that can end up picking another string below, I will take care of it with the middle finger from the right hand by lightly touching it. If it was below, well, like or above, if you like, I would be able to use the thumb and potentially the back of the right hand to touch the strings and mute them. But anything above, and a vibrato, same thing, I will have to use another finger. So I hope this helps. What else? I have issues hitting the tone that I'm shooting for. I'm not sure if I'm flat or sharp. What can I do to fix this? Okay, that's actually a great question, because if you're not very much used to the intervals, it might be, you might not be sure if it's flat or sharp. You're right. I think the best thing to do is in the beginning to just keep repeating the note that you're going for and try to reach slow. So if I'm going for the 10th fret to the 12th, so if you can, remember you can also use the unison bend idea, which goes, I mean, for the B string, you're gonna have to go down 3 frets on the higher string. So if I'm bending 10 to 12, it's the same note as 7, well, on the higher string. So I can do and hold it down and see where it sounds okay and where it doesn't. I mean, it's kind of easier to tell if it's a sharp, because it sounds a bit more terrible than if it's, you know, lower, because a lower bend could be, you know, a semitone bend, so like, whereas the sharp always sounds very much out of tune. So yeah, you want to just practice with the unison bends as much as you can, because this will guide you, and start to measure the distance. I mean, if you're in the beginning, try to get a feel for how long do I have to travel? What's that width that goes up a tone? Okay, I can kind of tell it's more or less like that. If it's a semitone, it's a lot less. It's not halfway through actually, it's a lot less. So it doesn't go, you know, it doesn't go symmetrically. And yeah. So yeah, I hope this helps. We're going to talk about that, the unison bends, in next week's bending as well, because it's a little bit more advanced to you know, do immediately, because you need to build some strength on the left hand. But to be honest, that's the most consistent way and most you know, effective way actually to make sure that you're playing the bends right. To just do the same note that you're aiming for on another string and double check. Oh, by the way, this works on stable bridge. If you've got like a locking trem or you know, Floyd Rose, this is not going to help, because the strings are floating, and every time you bend a string, then all the others bend by a small amount as well. They get stretched. So unison bends are not a thing for the Floyd Rose guitars, but yeah, you can get away with their tricks, but not as easy as on these ones. Right, next question. I have 2 questions. What gauge string are you using? Yes, I'm using 10s. I used to use 9s, but then for bends especially, they had such a thin tone, they would break so easily that I just quit using 9s, and yeah, I'm on Rotor Sounds 10s. And second question, on the music sheet it shows E sus2, D sus2. Could you please explain these? Thanks. Yes, and if you want to check out, I mean, on the guitar profile there is a second instrument, except for the lead tab. I mean, I always print the lead tab for the lesson, but on the actual Guitar Pro, if you play it back, you'll hear the chords as well, and there's a second instrument which shows the chord voicings. So yeah, I mean, E sus2 is, if you play E minor on this position 4, a bit less gain, that's your E minor. If you go and remove your second finger from that G note and play a bar with the first finger, you end up with an F sharp. And that's the sus2 chord. It's got a very interesting sound because it's not major or minor. It's a suspended chord, so that's why you can play a lot of different things on top of that. It doesn't have to be a minor or major scale. I mean, this is a minor tune, but yeah, it gives this sort of, yeah, like a suspended, more of a modern sound, I would say. I mean, this is a common sound, isn't it? You know that stuff. So it's basically, I'm adding the second of the chord, and on this fourth position it's an easy one because I'm removing the third on the B string. So getting rid of the G, putting an F sharp. Or if I had an E major, I would get rid of the G sharp and go a whole tone down. Think of the root, 2 frets up, and put it in a higher octave, and that's your E sus2. Same thing. So yeah, this is the voicing I'm using, and you can hear it in the Guitar Pro tab. Great, well that's it. Thank you very much for today. I'll see you next week with more bending and combining slides and vibrato and all that stuff we've been doing so far. So yeah, let's get down to it and see you next week. Take care.